Good evening, and welcome to the Ball at All Cost podcast and YouTube, week 3, episode 3. A man always told me never to count out your episodes because when you forget, you look like a muppet. But Deji started this, and now he's left. Not left the pod, he just didn't show up this week. Said he's got man flu or something. So he's not here. So I'm left to count the episodes in. So episode 3, and we're going to talk about footballing beefs this week. We've all been there. It's very topical right now. But first of all, if you are tuned in and if you are watching, subscribe, like, notification. I don't know where we're going, but hit all of those and leave us a comment when you get there. So this week we have myself, Andrew, Dan, aka Just a Dad, and Martin. And we're going to talk about just a conversation about our footballing beefs. One thing the listeners have said is that we don't get into the nit and grit of our conversations. Like we scratch the surface and then we have to go. And that's me trying to keep pace and keep the time. But there's 3 of us this week, so we should be able to get into the dirt a little bit deeper. So for those listeners who like our conversation and want us to go deeper, we will, and we may revisit some of the last 2 topics. But this week is football in beef. And what's very topical this week, everyone's seen the viral football clip of those kids, 3 kids going at it in a game. I believe it was a grassroots game. I don't know the age group. I don't know the teams, and I don't really want to know the teams. Let's not put them in the spotlight. But what is unmistakable is that 3 boys were involved in a fight during a football game, which isn't unusual. It doesn't happen that often, but it's not totally unusual. But what is unusual and why it went viral is because the parents went at it afterwards and properly went at it. And it was actually disgusting, right? To that point, it went viral because it was that bad. Now, listen, I don't know the background. I don't know anything. All I know is I believe it is in Kent. I know TalkSport covered it. There are radio stations, but I know TalkSport covered it a little bit. But it's one of the topics we had to cover. And I think that now's the right time to cover it. And I must admit, I sent it in the group and we had a few comments. I've since deleted it from all my social medias and my phone. But Martin, you had a comment straight off the cuff on that video. And I don't know if you remember it, but what were your initial thoughts when you saw that video?
Oof. My thought straight away was the ref. I wanted the ref to get in between them as soon as possible instead of just blowing the whistle like that's gonna stop. It may like alert people, but get in between them, like you prevent hands being thrown, people pushing and everything, and you kind of control the situation, and it reassures parents as well. But when you just leave them to be pushing and in this case punching each other, it's takes it to a whole different level. So I don't know if it's because it's a young referee that he didn't want to get involved. He was a little bit shell shocked as well. So, but I think look, the referee has a duty of care, safeguarding the boys on the pitch or the girls on the pitch, and then do your duty and get in between the kids, prevent anyone getting seriously injured. That was my initial thought.
And Daniel, from a safeguarding aspect or just your general views, what did you think of it? Because we haven't caught up on that.
Do you know what? I think it happens more often than we actually know. Like
What, fights or the beef?
The beef. I think it happens more often. I reckon it happens every weekend up and down the country. 100%. Yeah, just that this has got to an extreme where someone's recorded it and it's got out. But I think this happens so much. Clubs talk about respect and parent guidelines and expectations, but ultimately, these parents you evidently see don't really care about that. It's not about football. This is not about the safety of kids. This is about someone feeling like they're in charge and causing threat and harm to others. From a safeguarding work situation, this is disgusting. Obviously, I work in safeguarding. This for me would be like distress everywhere. You've got babies, you've got wives, you've got kids, you've got little kids, you've got adults, you've got teenagers. Again, if it's a young ref, that experience for him is now gone out the window. Why would he come back next week? Why would you ref ever again? Why would he?
No, I hear that.
He goes home now and tells his parents, "Oh, I had a game today and he went crazy," and then he got assaulted by an adult. His parents are going to go, "What's going on? You're not going back next week." So we talk about refs in the main game. We talk about, again, in the men's football, about respecting refs. But you've got the new breed of players, new breed of referees coming through. And this experience for him is something you probably won't do again. So it's another referee you might lose to the game.
Yeah, I understand that. So I think there's two things we should talk about then. One of them we're going to touch on now, and it's going to be a wider topic in anyway. And I keep on saying that every week I say we're going to discuss this. We have so many topics that we can discuss in Grassroots, and we've made a list of those, and we'll get the listeners and the watchers to give us their thoughts as well. So please, if there's any thing you want us to discuss, any questions you have, please leave them in the comments. But one thing, I remember having a conversation with a parent, and Dan, you know this parent, but I'm not going to name any names. And one thing he said, he's been through the mill before. He's got an older boy, and he's got a boy in our age group, our children's age group. And he said to me, I'm not chasing academy. I'm paraphrasing here. I'm not chasing academy, but I'd rather my son in an academy, because once it gets to under 11s, under 12s, all the aggro is just too much, is what he said. He said it just goes off. That's why I want my son in an academy. Okay. And Martin, what you said earlier off camera was interesting. So we'll come back to that as well. So the other point you both touched on was the referee. Now, Martin, you made a point that the referee could have done more and probably should have done more. Now, I have a general problem with referees, but I also know quite a few referees. And referees who are probably could command that game quite easily are probably on more money than grassroots clubs can afford to pay them or want to pay them. Now, even if they could afford to pay them, those referees don't want to do grassroots football because of the parents. That's something that you touched on, Dan. So it's a tricky situation that you either end up with a coach, manager, sometimes a parent refereeing, or you end up with a young referee. Now, some of these young referees, I don't know if their main goal is to get extra money, they just enjoy football, or they're considering going into refereeing in the future. I don't know. But some of the referees we have, our club, we have independent referees. So you'll never see a parent or a coach refereeing unless the referee hasn't shown up. Now, those referees tend to be young, like early 20s at best, late teens generally. And I'll be honest, a lot of them look like they don't even want to be there. They look like they're just there to get the money. I'm sure one of them refs with headphones in. One refs with his hood up. One refs with his hair over his eyes. The kids call him Cucurella. Like,
oh my gosh,
they've dubbed him. And one of them just looked like he's stoned, right? And these are the refs that we're having. We had a brilliant ref last week who we've had before, but we haven't had recently. And he plays football. He cares. And I always say to the referees, get a great vantage point. Don't stand in the middle. Be firm with your decision and talk your decision. Right? Let people know why you're giving a decision. I don't care if it's against our team, for our team. Just be consistent and be firm. And last week, what this ref did, which I thought was excellent, I think he pointed to what looked like towards a penalty for our team, and then said, no, it was a free kick outside because the boy fell inside the box. And what he did, which I thought was brilliant, one of the parents, our parents, challenged it, and we were winning at the time, and he didn't care. He's familiar with the parent, not friends with the parent, but he knows the parent. He's refereed us before. And he was just like, from where I'm standing, the tackle happened outside the box. Therefore, it's a free kick. It was definitely inside. Well, what I can see, it was outside, and I'm happy for you to referee if you want to referee. Didn't get involved, was just very firm, very direct, and then the kids played on. Then another situation happened with the boys. One of the boys pushed one of our players, our player pushed him back very firmly, and the referee got in between. He stopped them. The end of the game came. He got them together. He spoke to them for at least 5 minutes about the situation, and then they left. And this kid's, I don't know how old he is, but he's a young boy. But my point is, he took control. To your point, Martin. Now, obviously, he didn't get in the middle. He didn't need to get in the middle. And I don't know if referees think there is some kind of child safety or safeguarding where they can't touch or be touched. I don't know. But for me, it's about controlling the game. And it's about, if you blow the whistle and you see that they're 8, 9 or 10, 11, you can get in the middle of them. They won't hit you. They will respect you. And I think that's important. And I think the referees have to care and have to want to be able to control the field of play. You saw in the Premier League the other day, a certain referee, who everybody knows, sent off players after the game because they're still on the field of play. He controls the field of play. Now, maybe we're expecting, or maybe I'm expecting too much from these referees, but I think that's one element of how these beefs escalate. Just one. And I think they can do a little bit more, but I don't think that's the only part and the only reason we have beefs. Anybody want to chime in on that point?
I think some of it comes from frustration. I think parents get frustrated. I know for a fact, being with you for the last couple of years, Andrew, that
same being with me.
Yes.
Were you sticking it on me? Okay, let's hear this.
I'm just hearing the frustration that comes out of your mouth when you see your son being kicked consistently and the referee doesn't actually do anything. We recently played in a cup final, and you had a conversation with an organizer, about your conduct towards the referee, and that wasn't because that's where you incline. That comes from frustration of seeing your son being constantly kicked and hacked, and there's no repercussion, no ask, no questioning, no action taken as a form of protection for your son. Yeah. So
can I just say this? Can I just say this though? You know I'm vegan, so I can't have footballing beef. You know that, right?
This guy.
Is that pretend beef?
Pretend beef.
Yeah.
Corn beef, yeah?
Yeah. So I think it comes from frustration. And again, it's the wider society of life what we live in, where there's a lot of people that like to shout and scream. And in that environment of a football environment where we know they feel protected sometimes to say certain things at a certain way. But if you move away from football and if you go to a car park and you were to challenge someone and say, what's the issue? They were like, mate, it's not a problem. It's fine. It's only football.
One-line fever.
Yeah. And that's the problem we have. You get that and you might get the odd parent that goes past that extreme. And I take it back to, I wasn't there at the time, obviously, another parent that played for a team that our boys played in that was actually assaulted in a car park by
the headbutt.
Yeah,
that was shocking.
Yeah, and if that was a different parent in his face, he wouldn't do that. So I guess these people know who to take advantage of and take action against. So yeah, I just think it's a wider thing. It's not just football; it's a wider society thing as well. But footballing beef sometimes gets caught up in emotions with what thing people feel is the right thing to do, and it gets slung out of context sometimes.
Do you know what another thing is, Dan and Andrew? I think, and forgive me if I'm wrong, but I think parents can also fuel the beef as well. Like, you get parents that say, "Oh, make sure you do this in matches, or make sure you're confident." There can also be a flip side to it. "Oh, last time you met this team, they were really aggressive. Make sure you give it back 10 times harder." That can escalate it as well. Make sure you don't get bullied on the pitch. Make sure you stand your ground. If someone pushes you, push them back 10 times harder. Parents can also escalate it as well. But these are the things that we don't see in-house, like in their home behind closed doors. So when it comes outside now, you're thinking, wow, why did this kid have so much testosterone like towards another player or whatever? Because during the car journey to the pitch, it's been like, make sure you hold your own, make sure you're strong, blah, blah, blah. So you never know. That might play a part as well.
It's crazy. So you don't know my boy, what he's like. He's not no vicious person. Yeah, he's like more passive. He'll be like, let it go. He came home on Wednesday, all happy with himself. Said, yeah, I got revenge today. I said, revenge for what? He goes, on Monday, I got kicked in my shin 5 times in the playground playing football. And today, what did he call it? I think he said, I Brexited him. I cut the boy in half.
Oh,
I'm like, where did this come from? I said, what happened?
My boy, probably.
Yeah, I think it's influence. Yeah, that's it. Playing behind him, that maybe he's seeing it rubbing off on him. And I was like, where did this come from? He goes, no, he's not kicking me. I'm going to make sure I breaks him and stand up for myself. And I said, okay, I get that, but let's do it in context now. That if you're going to kick him, make it worthwhile. No, I didn't say that. But again, like he's taking it from, he sees that he plays in goal. So he sees the aggression from the other side. Like he's been in goal. And he's been taking an elbow from a boy in his ribs, and he's like, would expect it. So he goes now. His thing is, I have to defend myself first before being hurt. And again, what you're saying, Martin, I've heard parents on the sideline take him out. Don't let him run past you again. Yeah, if he goes past you, the ball doesn't go past you, and all those kind of things. So,
man and ball can't pass. We used to say, but
yeah,
that's
like when you're like old terminology. But like you think these are kids, and you're making them play like adult men before their time, and the vocabulary and terminology they hear, they listen to it, they absorb it, and they actually think it's real.
Yeah.
So,
no, you make fantastic points. Sorry, I didn't want to cut you off. There's so many points I wanted to touch on there. Like Martin, your point about, and you being very polite. You've been very polite when you said some of the language, some of the messages. I think it can be very specific with some parents. Like I can tell my story, not now, obviously I played football a long time ago, but when I used to play junior grassroots football, right? We played for a team in Bow. We never went to school in Bow, myself and my mate. We went to school in Hackney. And so we didn't know these Bow boys. We didn't go to school. We didn't have like the beef. But our rival team, they were all schoolmates or cross schoolmates, like the other school down the road. But we weren't involved in it. But then when we used to go training, our manager used to say, this one and that one said this about you, this one about you. And like to your point, Daniel, if we were there together, they wouldn't be saying that, right? And I don't know if they did say it, but I'm just saying, I know they wouldn't have said it. But that was some of the fuel that was there. So we just didn't like these teams. We just didn't like these players and didn't like these teams. And that was the kind of motivation strategy from the manager, right? It went even further. They had a player who was probably 6 foot when we were like, I don't know, 11 or 12. Big dread from Bow. And they said, hi, he plays with a penknife in his shin pad.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, well, more fool him. He's going to cut his leg. That was my thinking. But I'm just like, what kind of foolishness is this? And I later got to know that guy. We played in the same team together, played for the district together. This guy is so nice. Big guy. He was 6 foot. He was fast and strong, but he wouldn't hurt a fly. And it's just this information, this misinformation, this kind of motivation, this kind of, I get it. You want your boys to be strong in the tackle, strong on the ball. As we keep on saying, the boys play in the top league, so there's lots at stake. And I think anywhere is at stake. And I think part of football is about body strength. Not necessarily Brexit in, but body. You hear that terminology, body him, or he got bodied. And that is part of football.
Yeah.
That's fine. But I think the fuel from the parents is important because I don't know what happened in Kent on that Sunday or Saturday when those boys played. But to me, from the video footage that we saw, I did hear that apparently one of the coaches kicked one of the boys.
Yeah.
So maybe that caused the melee. But to your point, Martin, earlier, I think, and it felt like certainly there was some underlying tension between the two teams. I say that because there was a coming together with two boys. Straight away, another boy backed up his teammate and started throwing punches.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if that was a sibling, any relation, just the best mate, or it was ready to go off.
Yeah.
And we know there's rivalry. There's rivalry because of schoolmates. There's rivalry because parents don't like each other. There's rivalry because people have left teams, felt hard done by.
Yep.
There's rivalry because the coaches don't like each other. It shouldn't really affect the kids. It does, and it is part and parcel wrongly in the game. but we've got to try and get it out. But hey, Daniel, you ready? It's going to make me look like I'm aggressive here, right? And I'm an Aggie guy, but I'm not an Aggie guy.
It is what it is.
I'm a coach. I can't be seen to be Aggie. No.
Mm.
Well, what I think it is, I don't like bullies, right? I've never liked bullies. So I believe in standing up for myself and standing up to protect, to safeguard. So we've been in situations where we've gone away. And it's usually when you go away that these things happen to you, in my experience. And there were some bad refereeing decisions. I challenged it as a coach to protect the players. A particular boy of ours, he gets kicked a lot. He holds onto the ball well, gets kicked a lot. And I try and nullify it before the parents, who also can verbally kick off because their son gets kicked a lot. And we've explained to them why, but it doesn't make it right. We've explained to them why. So what happened there, when we challenged it, because the manager was refereeing the game, he told me to F off 3 times. Then one of them, they wanted to get in my face. And then his little pit bull coach, he then tried to put his hands on me. That didn't go so well. And from that day, I don't think there's any love lost between us and them. We've got to play them twice a season, at least, right? Now, subsequently, thanks to, I'm not going to say who, but thanks to somebody, it got squashed before it needed to escalate. And it shouldn't escalate. It's football, and junior football, grassroots football. So that happy days. We've had a conversation, moved on. However, there is still genuine dislike from one of the coaches with myself. And I said to him recently, it shouldn't be that way. This is grassroots football. We don't have to like each other, but we shouldn't show it to the kids, right? At the end of the day, we need to control ourselves because we're safeguarding these kids. We're supposed to be providing a safe environment for those kids. So I get it. It happens, but I do think coaches are accountable for a lot of what goes on as well as the parents and poor refereeing. So
Do you think, Andrew, do you think it's because the culture of football, that's why parents, coaches, and even kids or youth players or elite players feel like they can have that sort of beef in kind of football, like verbals, physicals? Because if you look at, I don't really know tennis, but if you look at tennis, you don't see the coaches giving verbals to each other. You don't see, like, it's rare that you see the tennis players giving beef or getting onto the umpire. I think that's what they're called.
Yeah.
So do you think it's like a cultural thing as well?
100% cultural thing. It's the common man sport, right? So if you just have to go into the stands at a weekend, and some people chant the most aggressive, egregious, outrageous things, and you can see the venomous nature in the fans against rival fans. And your rivals, I get it, your rivals, your city rivals, your neighborly rivals. But what has person X done to you? Nothing. But the way you venomously chant at them, mimic fighting them, telling them meet me downstairs, the language used, for what purpose? For absolutely no. It's tribal. It's tribalism. And there is a thought that it's where mostly men need to get out their aggression and frustration. Each week they've paid their money, they're allowed to say what they like, do what they like, right? And I think this is probably the start of it. So that feeds into the culture of it. The fans do it. They get, like, they cheer tough tackles, dirty tackles, and it's all about winning, right? All about that bragging rights for the week. There's 2 games a week now, so it's 2 games where you can get bragging rights, but typically it was 1 game a week. It was get your frustrations out for the week. And they said, right, one of the reasons they rushed back football during COVID was to help with domestic violence, right? So that men could actually use football as the tool of to get the frustration out, or else DV would rise.
Wow.
So, and I hope I'm right in what I heard, because I don't want to, that's a very delicate
I've heard the same. I've heard the
situation.
same.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard the same.
So, to your point, I think it is cultural. I think it's 100% cultural. And just going to add this before I let you guys chime back in. Last week, in one of our games, we're winning 3-0. Near the end of the game, a boy had a chance to go towards goal, right? He ran it into the corner flag and started protecting the ball. And I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? And I knew why he was doing it. It was like managing the game, because he sees it on TV.
Are you sure?
We've never coached that.
You sure it's not your coaching?
We've never, ever coached that whatsoever. 3-0 up, go for the fourth. Or if you want to do keep ball.
Yeah.
But don't run it into the corner to protect it. Like, that's wild. But to your point, Martin, that is what they see. They pick up on what they see. They're 9 and 10. Football is very tribal. These guys, these footballers they're heroes.
Yeah.
They were our heroes. They're now these kids' heroes. And actually, these are kids being little kids' heroes when we think about it, really. Yeah, because footballers really are 16 to 35 at most nowadays.
Yeah.
So typically, these are kids inspiring kids.
Facts.
Yeah. So,
but Andrew, I think that's a good segue to what I was concerned about as well. Like, I'll touch a little bit on the referees and the respect, because I reckon and it's one of my pet hates, where if players on the national stage, on the elite stage, respected refs, it will trickle down to like youth football.
100%. Yeah.
Because if you look at Jude Bellingham, for example, he was in the news recently saying the F word to a ref. And I was thinking, you're the poster boy right now for FC25, for Real Madrid, a guy from Birmingham City, to all go to one of the best clubs in the world, Real Madrid. And you're saying that, and kids will see this and they'll be like, "Right, so if he can say that, I can say it to the ref as well." So I just wanted to touch it, because that was a perfect segue to what I was thinking.
No, 100%. I mean, I saw that about Bellingham, and apparently he's been doing it all season.
There you go.
But they said he stumbled upon a ref that can understand English. So I didn't see it, but yeah, I mean, it's just not on. But they always say about rugby and the respect in rugby, and even in basketball to a certain degree, because in basketball you can get a technical. Like, you chirp at the referee, they can just give a technical straight away, and that means you get one foul away from your personal fouls, and the other team get a technical free throw, so they can score 1 point, and then they get the ball back. And then if you do it again, 2 techs and you're out of the game, right? So this is away from your personal fouls. You can get teched up and out of the game. So there is a bit more respect. And then the other team still get another free throw and get the ball back. So there's real punishments there straight away. And then in rugby, they call it the gentleman's sport. And this is why football's the common man sport, because it is as aggressive as it is. And it has to be this way because it's such an aggressive sport. There is control and there is respect for the referee. The referee gives a decision. They say it over the mic. Everyone gets on with it. Very rarely have I seen, and I don't watch a lot of rugby anymore, but very rarely have I seen players beef the referee, players crowd the referee. Yeah, there's been fights and stuff, but the discipline that gets handed out, they accept it and walk away. So I think you're 100% right there. Daniel, you got a view on that?
Not so. I'm trying to bring it back to more about the football beefs now. Yeah. So
you just want to try and dig me out again, don't you?
No.
Okay.
Because you kind of, what you mentioned wasn't what I was talking about, but that's a different topic. Yeah. Is there any point or any circumstances where you can kind of think the football beef is acceptable?
Oh, acceptable. What kind of beef are we talking about?
So obviously, in terms of animosity, different levels of animosity. So is football beef sometimes healthy? It's not so much beef, it's competition now. It's that kind of something. Us that again, going back to tribe, us against them, you against us kind of thing. So we're talking about football beef here in more of a negative aspect. But if you look at it, is there healthy football beef? Does that what makes it competitive? That what makes it healthy? Does it make it think actually that's what I want to go football for? That's what I want to turn up to play. And the boys turn up because, like Andrew, when our boys play each other, they have this real. It's not beef, but my son will tell you and your son we can't talk until after the game.
You don't even talk to me.
Yeah, there you go. So it's beef in its lowest essence as such, but it's a healthy thing. It's not necessarily all negative. So again, is there any aspect of what we're talking about football beef as being a positive or not all negative? There's some jovial, jokey side about it, which we can kind of accept.
Yeah, but I think that's competition. I think that's healthy competition, and rightfully so. I wouldn't want. I mean, you see it in football where some players can have a little bit of banter before the game and then go straight into sliding in real hard to each other respectfully. So some people can do that. Some people say, no, I'm focusing. My preparation starts an hour before the game, the night before the game. So I'm not going to speak to you. You're my mate. We'll speak after the game. Win, lose, or draw. We're friends again. And I respect that. And I think that's fine. And I do think healthy competition fuels greatness, right? Iron sharpens iron. And you want to do the best. It gives you competition, helps you grow, right? It helps you go the extra yard. I would compete with my brothers. Like I wouldn't have had it any other way. I was always chasing being the youngest, and that's competition. And yeah, you really want to beat them because they're your elder brothers or they're your mates. You want to have those bragging rights. And I think that's perfectly fine. I just don't think I want to class that as beef, just because for me, the context of beef is, and what people think is okay, I can cuss you out. I can do a nasty tackle on you and then say after the game, it's just football. I'm sorry, shake hands. Let's continue. And I think there's a fine line, but I respect it because to your point, Djokovic did the same thing to Murray in tennis. You touched on tennis earlier, Martin. They were mates on the circuit, and Djokovic said to Murray, like, they're almost at the apex, and he's like, we can't be friends anymore. Like, this is at maybe early 20s. They both were getting there. Obviously, Federer was the boss. Nadal was up there for only on clay at the time. And he was like, afterwards, when we're both retired, we can sit down, have tea, have drinks, and discuss our career. But during our career, we can no longer be friends. They both respected it. And I heard Murray's retired now. Djokovic is still going, but Murray's part of Djokovic's camp now, helping him, like helping coach him. And I think I respect that so much because it's to your point what our boys did. They said, today, before the game, we don't speak. And I think it is healthy competition. And luckily, it won't spill over. Like the other day, my son could have gone in for a tackle, a fair tackle, leave something on your boy. And we both saw it. He kind of slid, pulled out protection because his head was there. And then just ran off. I don't know if everybody would have done that.
So as you being a coach now, and I've heard parents call coaches on the phone because they're not happy. Have you ever experienced a conversation with a parent that's addressed you in a certain way because of your decisions with their boy?
In what kind of decision? As in taking them?
Not playing, your decisions where you approach the game with them, where you talk to them. Because I've been in environments and I've seen it where I feel I could have lost my head if a coach has spoken to my boy the way I've seen him speak to other boys, and that will cause a kind of a beef. So I'm just saying.
Okay, I see what you're saying. So I don't. No parents ever called me to say that. I've been involved in a situation, and I think you were there, where one of our boys lost his head and stamped out at a boy,
Oh,
and
wow.
I've pulled him off straight away.
Yeah.
I've pulled him off. I was really annoyed with him, but he's a kid, right? So I got down on my knees, was eye level with him, and said, "You need to take a breath. I've pulled you off because of your reaction to the tackle." And the dad was angry that I pulled him off at this
Wow.
point because he said he never saw it, but I didn't know this. But I felt I need to let the boy, reassure the boy first and foremost, because he's upset, right? He's only reacted like that because he's upset. So I've got down to his level, made sure my tone was soft, engaged him, calmed him down, explained why he was off. I also explained to him, and ironically, this was against our rivals. Ironically, I said to him, not ironically, I said to him, "You may not play the rest of the game. I need to speak to the other team. And if they're okay with you playing, and I can see you're calm, and you go and apologize, then we can see if we can get you back on." All right. So I did that. I spoke to the other team, and they were totally fine. They were like, "Fine, it's totally fine." And I still didn't throw him back on. I waited until I was 100% sure he had recognized what he did. He was apologetic about what he did. And we let him go back on for a short period of time. Like I said, I found out later his dad was fuming. And when I explained to his dad what had happened, what actually happened, because he said he didn't see it, what I did, he said, "Fair enough." He said, "Fair enough." But to your point, Dan, I've heard parents literally rip coaches new ones, forget all the hard work the coaches do, everything a coach is trying to achieve on a Sunday or Saturday, and basically call them yellow or cowards for not standing up, not backing them when they're ripping into the referees, ripping into other parents. And then I've had to explain to them, I said, we can only do so much. We are not going to berate the referees. Our job is to protect and safeguard your child. And when we think the referees are not doing their job correctly, then we have a conversation with them. I said, what you don't see, because you're on the other side, is if we see something, we are communicating with the referees as the game is going on. And that's not us slagging the referees off, pardon my French, edit that out, please. But it's us saying, what was that decision you just did there, ref? Right, get it? Fine, no problem. So we are understanding what they're doing and what they're seeing. And the parents don't see this. So when they see 3 fouls on their child and think we've not done anything, and they have to protect from that side, and the referee's not vocal, then we have to kind of correct them. So it definitely does happen. Have you made that phone call, Dan, or have you made that phone call, Martin?
To a coach about how they carry themselves.
Either to a coach about how they've protected your child, or to a referee about how they protected your child.
Yeah, do you know what? To a coach, when my son was at a grassroots club, I actually spoke to a coach and said, "Look, the way your like tone, the way you talk to these kids it's not appropriate." So I even said, "Let me join the coaching stuff," not because I'm in it, but I just wanted to like just make sure everything was mellow, like everyone was calm, everyone was spoken to the right way in the right tone. So I have had that conversation with a coach regarding my son, but also for other players, because some parents will come to tell me like, "Oh, the way this coach is talking to the boys is not right," blah blah blah. So I thought, you know what, let me just, for the sake of it, let me just try to join this team as an assistant, just to help with the cones, help with the setups, help with the team talks, and that kind of help. But that's the only time I really got involved where I thought, you know, I need to step in, because I can see my son's confidence or self-esteem was dipping. So I thought, you know, let me just try see if this works, and it worked out in the end. But that's the only time I've got really got involved or had to make that call.
Okay, Dan.
Not so much, but I had to make a call when I said a coach I wanted to leave the team. yeah, for my son to leave the team to just different avenue pastures, and he refused to deregister my son. He said, "No, I'm not going to do it." And then
Why?
I don't even know the full reason why. He tried to say it's about something non-footballing related reason why I didn't want to do it, which I kind of said, well, didn't add up. Your reasoning why you're not releasing my son's registration didn't add up. Then he brought the non-professional side out of me, so the conversation went a different way. Then he accused me of threatening him.
Okay.
And I was like, bro, like, you put it in the situation. Stop putting things in my mouth. So the thing is, the conversation he said to me, we carried by text. I said to him, please stop calling my phone now. Just text me. If you want to see, text me. I'm not going to say to you because I know where he's going to go. Then he's called someone else that's called me. Said, why have you threatened him? He's all scared now. He's scared you're going to go do something to him. I said,
Did you threaten him?
No.
Okay.
I said to him that what you're saying can get you into trouble. And he took it as whatever he wanted to take it. I said, but how you're talking, what you're saying, can get you into trouble.
Yeah.
And he calls me and I was saying now, I'm threatening him and blah, etc., etc. And ironic thing is, the same person that called me fell out with him. And it was okay for them to make the call and do what they wanted to do. But when I was defending my son, I was a bad person.
Yeah. And is this do you find that certain coaches have godlike complexes? I'm not trying to blaspheme, and I feel like you can't talk to them. They know what's best, and they take offense when parents, chime in or try and protect their sons.
I think so. I think it is not all coaches, because some coaches are actually nice guys and they actually want to do the best thing for the boys and stuff. But some coaches have this real complex of power that what they say is this tracksuit is my tracksuit, it's my badge. What I say goes, and I will do with your boy how I see fit. And unfortunately, in my eyes, you didn't give birth to my son. You don't raise my son, so it doesn't work that way. But it is some of these coaches are still living life experiences. They're still learning. Some of these guys are really still young, and they're not parents themselves. And I think that's where you get the difference between life coaches that are really experienced in life and these young boys on the start of their journey. And don't get me wrong, I think some of these coaches will be really good coaches and good men as they get older, but they need to take guidance and tap into the right mentors, the right accessibility around them. I think some of them don't do that. It's again like ego and power. They think they're a coach, they can do what they want, and no one can't talk to them. And again, I think that's age and life experience. And if they tap into people around them, real people that are real mentors, role models, they'll get to the right place to get the right responses.
Yeah, 100%. I've seen that too. Go on, Martin.
I wanted to ask.
No, don't ask about my beef. Don't ask about any more beef.
It's got a long list. The rap sheet's long right now.
Hey, I can see him shaking a little bit. But no, I wanted to ask. So do you know with this the video, I think I was also one of the comments, one of the statements I said in the chat is like, what would be like the consequences? Is it something where you ban the whole team for the way they acted? Do you get rid of the coach, or does it get escalated? I don't really know because I'm talking from a parent's point of view. But as a coach, what do you do in that situation? Because it's a bad image where you see whatever that club is called fighting another club. Do you like put that club in the bin and say, yep, we're closing this club. It hasn't been run properly. The safeguarding's in the mud. What's the steps?
So what we've done, I'll come on to that, but what we've done in the past is we've banned parents.
Okay.
And we've banned parents for different periods of time based on what we thought was appropriate. The parents actually respected it. They reflected on it. Daniel knows this. It wasn't him, but he I said it only because he supported one of the parents in question through it. Because I tell you what, if you can't go to watch your child play football, right? And this is not us power tripping. We wanted the boy. The boy wasn't at fault. The parents were at fault.
Yeah.
And they said some egregious things. And it was a case of, we understand where you might be coming from. However, you need to have control. And it filters down, right? It filters through to the boys, it filters through to other parents. So we decided we had to ban them. And we got the backing from the club's secretary, because obviously it's not our club. So we gave him the information. He said, I'm 100% behind you. He said, I know both of you. I wouldn't expect you to accept that. And I don't believe you were part of it or encouraged it. So I'm happy to support you. So when we did that ban, I'm telling you, it absolutely killed one of the parents. The other parent, not so much. Their ban wasn't as long. But one of the parents, they were distraught. But I forgot, before we even got to that point, we actually said, it will break our heart, but this boy needs to leave the club.
Wow.
Because it was that bad. It was that bad what the parents said. And they said it to the coach, one of our coaches.
Oh, wow.
So we said, that boy has to leave the club. Wow. And I'm telling you, if we had to see that through, I would have been heartbroken. Because I've known that boy since he was 6.
Wow.
And it was nothing to do with him. So, and you're not only stopping him from playing football maybe that season, he would have probably found another club, but you're breaking him up from his mates as well. And why would he didn't need or want to leave that club. So that was the last resort. But at the time, the other manager, or the manager I just support with coaching, he was disrespected. And he felt, do you know what? No, I don't want them there. Literally. And I had to talk him round to say, our care is for all the boys, right? We're here to try and provide a platform for them to express themselves and showcase themselves and improve. And that action, it impacts the parents, but it impacts the boy the most.
Yeah.
Is there another way? And that's how we got to banning the parents, because actually we didn't realize or think how that could work. If you ban the parents, can the boys still get there? And we didn't stop. Obviously, we can't tell people where to go. But what we said was, you can bring your son, but you can't be on the sideline.
Got you.
And that's what they did, literally sitting in the car.
Wow.
And it killed them. And I think it was the right decision. I think the parents thought afterwards, do you know what? It was the right decision. And I think what we saw after that was, I wouldn't say perfect behavior, but a lot better behavior from the parents. And Daniel, you saw that firsthand. What are your thoughts on it?
You know what? It worked. Like, I remember having a conversation with one of the parents, and he was like, "What do I do?" Like, and we actually not sat with him literally, but on the phone. We spoke on the phone for a little while. He's like, "What do I do? How do I make it right?" And I think you have to be, sometimes when you're wrong, you got to be a man about it and say you're sorry. And I said, look, the first thing you need to do is apologize. Yeah. Whether or not they accept it or not is a whole different story. I'm not answering that. But the first step is to apologize, because what you're doing is affecting your boy playing football. That they're his friends. He sees them all the time. Birthday parties, that's who he goes to. Like, you have to make it right. Then he got it. And I think in the end, it worked out well for the boys and the parent. And that he's a lot calmer now. I think he takes things not so serious when it comes to, well, we say that, but it outbursts now and again. But I think he understands and he respects the environment. It's about those boundaries. Yeah. So the same thing you're saying in terms about what happened at Club Mine. I know firsthand what would happen was that would have been reported to the FA. There would have been probably some form of suspension put in place. So because it's, you don't know who's related to who and who's involved in what club. That club fixtures may have been suspended until investigation had been carried out. And remember, the bigger, wider thing beyond football, there's actual criminal offences been here, like assaults and stuff that have been happening in a public place. Remember, much as this is a public domain, so then you bring other people into danger. Like kids that are just standing around watching, might have got hit and got kicked. The FA would have definitely been involved and would have been notified. There have been suspensions, would have been investigations, witness statements would have been taken. And in some cases, players may be deregistered, because especially the boys that are maybe physically violent towards other boys,
Yeah.
they might be suspended from playing football and training and stuff. So it's social media got a lot of hit of it. It's all loads of hits and likes and like views and stuff. But the wider views of it around outside of football have a deeper impact as well. Because remember, that might have an impact on the whole club, not just one age group.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and that's the thing
because we didn't see the rest of it.
Yeah.
With some of the coaches' behaviors, we didn't see that.
And if that coach coaches more than one age group, then obviously that impacts his involvement in that as well.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen some of that before, and I can tell you older grassroots football. I've seen 6 months, 9 months, 2 6 months, 1 9 month ban from players and hundreds of pounds fines for a London Cup semi-final game. And that's all I'm going to say on that. But that's at that level. I think if players are accountable, parents accountable and notorious, I think you're right, Dan. I think bans, suspensions and fines are all at play here.
Good.
And I think rightly so, because I question the league sometimes that they don't do enough. But ultimately, we're talking about grassroots football. We're talking about junior football here. We're talking about kids. And I think if the parents behave in the right way, I think that no beefs to that extent would ever happen, right? I think players might get into fisticuffs, like kids fight in school, right? Kids fight in the park. But I think that would be few and far between, especially if the referees were a little bit stronger, stepped in between, the parents denounced it and didn't condone it. I don't think we would see very many beefs at all. I think the league would be very vegan. That's what I think.
I wouldn't be there.
You wouldn't be there. I couldn't interest you in any jackfruit stew.
Nah, I'm good.
Okay.
Well, I think talking about that FAs and county FAs, I think what initiative they need to bring in more often are those silent weekends. Like it's like once a year, and respect weekend. It's not enough. Like, some parents are not going to respect silent weekends anyway. But I think those initiatives where you have to engage with parents have to be involved in it to be more of a thing rather than just once a week, once a year. Sorry.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, because I've seen those, they work. People may need to be reminded, but I think everyone's once reminded, they don't go against it. It's like, yeah, we need to do this. Because ultimately, up until now, the results are not recorded and don't actually matter. What are we talking about here?
Wait, you say that, but we know in the league that our boys playing, certain managers have groups that have got league tables and goal differences that don't mean a single thing right now.
Yeah, I know. I know ranking goes on the unofficial league table. I know, and that feeds into the cup competition. But ultimately, it's development football.
Yeah.
Right. And this is why the FA are trying to get back to 7-a-side and not rush for some boys, and even introduce 3-a-side so boys get more touches. And that's another topic that we'll have to cover. But ultimately, they're trying to slow down the rush to 11-a-side football for the kids and results-driven football. And we've touched on this before. And I think all of that, results, but I think ultimately it all goes back down to academy, being in the best team, being the best, getting the scouts there to watch your child so that they can be the strongest, the toughest. Because when they go into the academies, we've all taken our boys into academies. There's one in particular where they don't give any fouls unless you rough up one of their boys. They don't give any fouls. And I get that, because you want boys to not mimic the TV, roll over, hold their legs, put up imaginary yellow cards, and I'm glad I've not had to dish out any yellow cards today, gentlemen. Well done. But I get it. But at the same time, it's become very physical. Almost you have to earn the right to play, very much like the Premier League. I would be very interested to go and watch grassroots football in Spain, in Italy, in Holland, and in France to see how physical it is. I'd imagine it's intense. I'd imagine it's probably more technical, but I don't know how physical it would be. I don't know if anybody knows.
I think, you know what it is? I think as much as we say it's drilled into them, I think physicality is in your natural DNA sometimes. I think you're going to get, not say every single team in every single area in these European countries around the world, but I think you're going to get certain leagues in certain parts of France and Spain, Austria, Germany that have real physical boys. Because remember, if athleticism, the bigger boys are going to be more physical naturally. They're always going to be overpowered boys. And that's just something you're going to get all over the world. So I think because we see it face to face every single week and we know firsthand what it looks like, it's more magnified to us. But I think if you went to another country, I think it'd be exactly the same. The coach might be slightly different, the message might be slightly different, but those key elements of physicality will always be the same, I think.
Yeah, because I remember I've been to, when was it? I think it was maybe like 2019. I went to Romania and I watched some like grassroots football. But yeah, over there, do you know what? To be honest, I didn't see a lot of physicality, but you saw technicians, so a lot of tactical players, like really good technique. So it wasn't really, and that's just Romania. I haven't been across Romania, but a particular.
Was you lost?
No, I wasn't lost. I went there for work. Then I went there for like just to like scout some boys or like look at some players and stuff. So when I saw the grassroots, I was like, okay, this is different. Where they're technically good and they know how to pass, move the ball. It wasn't so much like barging and physicality. It was like moving. It looked really clean. It looked really clean football. So I was impressed with that. So that was in Romania. So yeah.
Okay, so we need. You know what we need? If anybody is watching this, a grassroots parent from another country in Europe, and hey, Australia, America, wherever. YouTube's a big place. So if anybody else is watching this and they think, I watch a lot of grassroots football, my son, daughter plays, and you know what? These are the characteristics of this league, and it's different or the same as yours. Please leave a comment. And whilst you're leaving a comment, smash that like button, smash that subscribe button. Thank you, Dan. And make sure you hit the notification so you will be informed when that next episode drops. Also, if you're catching this on the audio feed, on the podcast, please leave a like, please leave a review. And regardless of how you're consuming this media, tell a friend to tell a friend, right? I know you are true to this, but make them become new to this. That's it from me, guys.
Bravo. Fantastic. Take care, everyone.
Until next week, we are Ball at All Costs, and we are out.